Hello students, in this video we're gonna talk about Agatha Christie's most celebrated play, The Mousetrap. Agatha Christie herself is a fabled playwright and a short story writer who was born on 15th September 1890, exactly a century before I was born, and I relish her work so much because I feel that most of the writers, those who were born in the month of September, they might shine later in their lives, but once they shine, they are the brightest stars we have in the sky. And moreover, as per the vogue of this UGC net, I have seen that we just have a handful of female writers, and of course how hard earlier it was for the female writers to come forward, and that's why most of their works are really important, and in this case The Mousetrap. Agatha Christie, her actual name is Dame Agatha Mary Clarissa Christie, Lady Malowan. So, such a long name, right? And she is popularly known as Agatha Christie. Another thing is that she has written 66 detective novels, 14 short story collections, and just like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle had Sherlock Holmes as his protagonist in most of his works, Agatha Christie had two such people. One is Hercule Poirot and the other one is Miss Marple. Right. Another thing important about Agatha Christie is that she had published 6 of her works under the pseudonym of Mary Westmacott. See, it is important to understand that you know, because the society, no matter how progressive it is getting, I think it is still equally regressive, because people, they can't be themselves, especially when it comes to writers, actors. Sometimes they have to use their pseudonyms so to get accepted. The same she had to do. Otherwise, once you are famous for one particular genre, people expect the similar things from you, and they get used to that thing. So she used this thing, and earlier her novels were getting rejected, and that's why she changed her name. Another important thing about Agatha Christie is that she has her name in Guinness Book of World Record, because when she died in 1985, 1980, somewhere near there, 1975 I think, when she was almost 85 years old, right? And then the important thing is that she sold more than 2 billion copies of her published works in 90s, like in this century, the previous century. Even now also, selling 2 billion copies is a big thing. Once you touch this million thing, you are already a bestseller, right? So this thing was there. Another thing important about Agatha Christie is that she gifted the rights of this particular play to her grandson, for which he is still receiving the royalty. Now, why this particular work, The Mousetrap, is important? First of all, imagine someone is actually learning about Bollywood and the person hasn't watched DDLJ. Now, DDLJ might not be the best movie we have, but it was the longest running movie, right? We have in that theater. Similarly, Agatha Christie's play is the longest running play ever. It was first staged in 1952, and until 2018 it continuously ran. After that, again, it was recently revived, right? So it's so important. So it's the longevity of the play that has made it popular and important. Another important thing is, I always say that in case the title or the plot or something is taken from some other famous published work, it itself becomes quite important. For example, like last time also I told you about this Virginia Woolf. In this one, the title is The Mousetrap, is actually taken from William Shakespeare's Hamlet. In Hamlet, when Hamlet calls those artists to perform, to check the consciousness, to check the intentions of Claudius, the play was there, and he renames the play to The Mousetrap. Tell me, what was the original name, the actual name of the play? This could be a question. I might tell you the answer in the end, although I know. Shall I tell you now? No. Okay. So then, moving further about this play, the Mousetrap, it is actually based on a true story. This true story, there was a murder of Dennis O'Neill case, they call it. Actually, there was a couple. They had 3 foster children. They used to ill-treat them and torture them that the youngest one died. So later on, this couple was convicted. The husband died on a goal, while the lady was convicted, sentenced, but upon being released, she was strangulated to death by someone. Now, this story is loosely related to our this mystery play. In this play, The Mousetrap, we have a couple with the name of Molly Ralston and Giles Ralston. They renovate their house and converts it into a guest house. Now they have four guests on the list. The first one is Christopher Wren, who is a guy in quite well dressed, and when he walks in, he starts talking quite friendly. He starts getting friendly with Molly, which so the husband immediately develops a kind of disliking for this man. The second guest to arrive is Mrs. Boyle. She is kind of complaining, a lady like maybe in her 50s or 60s, and she's a bit complaining, oh, this should have been like this, or this would have been like that. The third person to arrive is Major Metcalf, and Major Metcalf is a retired army officer. The fourth one to arrive is a lady named Miss Caswell. These people, they had their reservations, but when these people are coming, there's another guest who walks in. His name is Mr. Paravicini, and he says that he was driving by, but unfortunately there is the snow. Snow is drifting, so all the roads are blocked, and that's why he needs some shelter, and that's why he is here. Although Molly was a bit reluctant at first, but eventually she sets up a room for him. Now there is this radio. The announcements which are being made on the radio, they are important. The news which was being broadcast over there was that there is a lady who has been murdered, and there is a note which has been found near her and stating that this is the first one. So there can be other meanings as well, like maybe there would be some other murders also. Also, there another thing that there was a notebook with this name of the blind mice is also lying next to the dead body. Now they just take their rooms and they go inside. Now this lady Molly, she gets a call from some police officers saying that just let everyone in, we need to speak to you, don't let anyone leave, so we are coming to you. She was a bit afraid, right, that what we have done to garner the attention of these police officers, but she just simply follows, and then someone disconnects the telephone wire. This guy, Mr. Trotter, who is a police officer, he comes and then he's wearing these skiing shoes, which is a bit funny for them, and then he starts investigating that if anyone of you know anything about the case. Everyone simply refuses that no, we don't know anything about it. To which the Major Metcalf, he walks to Mrs. Boyle and says that, ma'am, weren't you the one who was the magistrate who had ordered to actually send these children to the to that couple? She says that she was, first of all, she was taken aback, but then she says that I didn't know like that this thing would happen, and now I am not anyhow related to the murder case, then why should I get myself involved, right? So that's why I held my tongue. So she just she maintains the secrecy, and then Mr. Metcalf, he also leaves. So this lady, Mrs. Boyle, is now sitting in her chair, and the radio is being played, and then when there is this someone whistles, and the song Three Little Mice, and all of a sudden a figure appears which is not being shown to the audience, and then the lights went off. Mrs. Boyle, like there is a sound of scuffle, and then when Molly comes in, Mrs. Boyle is already dead, and she has been strangulated. Now, in the presence of Mr. Trotter, who is the inspector, a murder has taken place. Of course, he's on duty, so he says that he just simply calls everyone that how this thing happened. Everyone had their own alibi, so of course he said that not everyone can be true. If you all have your alibis, let's role play it, let's enact where everyone was when this murder actually took place. And now Molly is actually suspecting her husband, because in the beginning of the play he also says that there are some things from my past, and Molly herself says that there are things from my past from which I have been running. So everyone had some secret to maintain, to hold, to upkeep. Then this guy, Mr. Trotter, he says that who can be the murderer? Maybe a young lady who is the sister of this Mrs. Boyle. She could be the murderer. So Molly and this Caswell, they are under scrutiny. Maybe the father of this guy, these children, who was a retired army officer, he could be the murderer. So now this guy, Mr. Metcalf, and even the other guy, this Parvin, he could also be under this investigation. And then he said maybe someone, that guy, the eldest one who survived those parents, he could be the murderer. So even Christopher is also like under suspect. So everyone is a suspect now. Now what happens is that Christopher, he confesses that he was in the army also. So everyone is under this thing. Molly already is running away from her past, so they all start blaming each other. So he says that rather than blaming each other, let's just enact, but it would be a role play. You can't go back to your places, you all will be taking place of someone else's place. So they agree. And now Molly, she is with this guy Trotter, because she is sitting at the place where Mrs. Boyle was earlier sitting. When everyone just takes their alibi, Trotter asks this lady Molly that, Molly, weren't you were the teacher to whom those 3 children called for help, seeking for help, that these parents are torturing us, please send some police officers, please rescue us? She was taken aback. So Trotter said that, why didn't you reveal this thing? She said that she was afraid, she was guilty, and somehow when the letter arrived, when the children wrote to her, she said that she wasn't in a good state, she was unwell, and when she read the letter, the youngest one died, and after that definitely police came and rescued the other 2 children. To which Mr. Trotter brings out his gun, points it at Mrs. Molly, and says that, Molly, I am George, I am no Trotter. We were in a miserable state, and you didn't help us. You were our last hope, and just because of you, my younger brother died. Molly was scared. And then when he starts speaking about this thing, the trauma he had faced, he actually, the child who was somehow was stuck there in this grown-up body, he comes out, he starts strangulating Mrs. Molly. But this lady Caswell, she came out of her room, and then she says that George, she's I am Kathy, I'm your younger sister, please don't kill her. When I got the news, and then I came to know about this particular book which was lying next to the dead body, I somehow knew it's you. To which Major Metcalf says that, I am the police officer, I knew that Trotter is an imposter, but still I wanted to know that what the story was, and that's why this play actually received some mixed review, that when the police officer was there, then why he simply arrested him. But that's a different story altogether. So this guy was finally caught, and that's it. And then Mrs. Molly was saved. So this is the story of these people, the young children, and this is the first one. It means he just simply informed that I am the first one. The first one could be that I am the first child also, and I am the first one. This is the first one, as this is the first murder I have to kill 2 other people, those who are responsible for my miserable childhood. So this is the story. I hope you would like it. Keep sharing, keep reading, let learning be your muse. And I always say, the more you share, the more you learn. May learning be your muse. Good night. God bless you.